Good afternoon, I'm Giovanni Dennis with the Midday News. A special welcome if you're joining us online at onespotmedia.com. Opposition Senator Lambert Brown continues to face a firestorm following comments he made in the Senate about jungle justice last Friday. Mr. Brown suggested he's prepared to take the law into his own hands should the life of any member of his immediate family come under threat. Since then, there have been sharp reactions from the public. O'Shane Masters has this follow-up.
And I have held the view over many years that I need no legal representation, Senator Morris. If somebody violates my daughter, or my sisters, or my wife, or when my mother was alive, my mother, I need no representation. If I had to walk to the William, I would walk proudly, knowing that the honor of my family was held high and restored. So I don't need a lawyer once the jungle justice, in the absence of the rule of law, kicks in.
That's the statement made by the opposition Senator Lambert Brown last Friday in the upper house regarding the use of jungle justice. His comments have prompted at least one legal practitioner to express outrage. Attorney at law Isaac Buchanan says the comments made by Senator Brown are unfortunate. Mr. Buchanan has since condemned the statement and is urging those in power to respect the rule of law.
The people who are watching, especially young men, young women, who probably don't even understand the law or the repercussions of the law, they need to know. And immediately, anybody with a platform should tell them, jungle justice is no justice. There's one justice, respect for the Constitution and upholding the rule of law. And so there are procedures that we must follow, and we must trust the process.
Senator Brown insisted that despite his position as a lawmaker, he would be prepared to abandon the principles he is sworn to uphold by employing the use of jungle justice.
Too many of us in the society have been quiet. I am saying this and I repeat it. From my family, if my daughter is raped and the state doesn't deal with it, I believe I have a duty to honor the name of my family. And if it means I am going to go to the gallows, so be it. Somebody must stand up against the Don who sent for the young girl. Somebody, and I am prepared to say that if it affected my family, I would stand up. I am not a wimp.
In the meantime, Mr. Buchanan believes Senator Brown's comments were inappropriate and has called for an apology.
You don't have to tell somebody hypothetically that you will resort to jungle justice. You don't need the law to tell you that you should apologize.
But Assistant Lecturer in the Department of Government at the University of the West Indies, Damian Gordon, is going further.
We have to start holding lawmakers accountable. We may see it as something that is forgivable, but one thing leads to another. And over time it becomes a culture where they are able to get away with saying these things which are unacceptable.
O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
The Caribbean Union of Teachers says it has made progress in getting regional officials to hear its concerns about this year's Caribbean Examinations Council CXC exams. President of the union, Dr. Garth Anderson, told our news center that talks have started with CARICOM's Council for Human and Social Development, COSAD.
I have heard from the chair of COSAD, the Minister of Education from the Bahamas, the Honorable Sir Lloyd, and can't say much on the matter, but just to say that we anticipate that in short order we'll have another sit-down meetings with the relevant persons to have further discussions on our concerns.
The union has accused CXC of operating in a business-as-usual manner despite the COVID-19 pandemic causing disruptions in the education sector. On Monday, President of the Jamaica Association of Principals of Secondary Schools, Linvern Wright, said with face-to-face classes suspended, students and teachers are facing an uphill task to complete school-based assessments on time, especially those with a practical component. He wants the date for submission extended. 2 people are dead following a motorcycle collision along the Oxford Main Road in St. Elizabeth around 6:30 Tuesday evening. The deceased have been identified as 22-year-old Jason Taylor and 32-year-old Jason Salmon. Reports are that Salmon was driving his motorcycle along the Oxford Main Road heading towards Black River when Taylor, who was driving his motorcycle in the opposite direction, overtook a motorcar and collided into Salmon's motorcycle. Both drivers sustained multiple injuries and were taken to the Black River Hospital, where they were pronounced dead. Both motorcycles caught fire immediately after the collision. No registration plate was affixed to the motorcycles. And about 45 minutes later, also on Tuesday, 15-year-old Jordan Stewart, a student of Magotty High School, was killed in a fatal accident in St. Elizabeth. It's reported that he was riding his bicycle along the Holland Bamboo Main Road. On reaching the vicinity of Holland Estate, a Suzuki Swift, which was traveling in the opposite direction, was overtaking a line of traffic and hit Stewart. The driver of the car did not stop. Stewart received multiple injuries and was taken to the Black River Hospital by a motorist. Now he died while being treated. To other news, the Trelawney police are reporting a reduction in serious crimes for the parish. However, domestic violence remains a major issue. Shamala Pullen reports.
Since the start of the year, Trelawney has recorded 31 serious crimes. Head of the Trelawney Police Superintendent Carlos Rossa says this is a 38% reduction when compared to the corresponding period last year.
The category of murder, we have 4 murders compared to 9 for the previous period, which is a 56% reduction. We have also had a reduction in rape. For the period, we have recorded 2 cases of rape compared to 6 for the previous year. As relates to shootings, we are on par, 5 shootings compared to 5 for the previous period. And for robbery, we have 4 compared to 4 for the previous period.
Superintendent Russell also said that the curfews and lockdown measures put in place to control the spread of COVID-19 also helped the police to deal with crimes in the parish.
The citizens of Trelawney are not known for their violent nature. We have a few incidents here and there, and we'll not get away from that. And when we do have incidents, we ensure that they are properly investigated and persons are brought to books.
But domestic violence continues to be an issue. Superintendent Rossa says the team is trying to tackle this issue before it gets out of control.
What we try to do is to, as soon as we get wind of any such situation of a domestic nature, we try to go in as quickly as possible to deal with these disputes, and we follow up as best as possible until the matters are resolved. If we have to get other agents involved, then we do that. But we try our best to ensure that the matters are resolved before we stop visiting these persons.
However, he wants more cooperation from the citizens when incidents like these happen. Shamala Pullen, TVJ News.
The remembrance service for senior journalist and broadcaster Michael Sharp is now underway and can be viewed live on JNN, One Spot Media and the TVJ and the JNN YouTube channels. Mr. Sharp was the operations manager of Jamaica News Network, a member of the RJR Gleaner Communications Group. He died on April 20 at the University Hospital of the West Indies. And it's now time for a break here on the Midday News, but please stay with us. We'll have much more when we return. Welcome back. We're continuing the news. Law and order is needed in downtown Montego Bay, St. James. That's according to President of the Montego Bay Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Janet Silveira, who believes the area is getting out of control. Speaking at the opening of the new Chamber of Commerce office on Tuesday, Ms. Silveira noted that the St. James Municipal Corporation, along with the police, need to step up their activities in those areas.
Sam Sharp Square. I would love to see Sam Sharp Square's waterfall that we have in the square. I would like to see that. We need to return to that instead of having all those billboards taking over that historic area of the city. that square was named in honor of one of our national heroes. But when you go down to the square itself and you look at that fountain, that historic fountain, it's no longer there.
She also said stronger measures are needed in bus and taxi parks where disorder is the order of the day.
For instance, you find that taxi operators are now parked around the square in the roundabout. How can that be possible? Something needs to happen where persons are given places where to park, where persons can get taxis to go home. So the town really needs a proper plan, which is out there, it's just to implement that plan and ensure that there's order in the city.
Still on public transport, the new transportation center in St. Anne is posing a challenge for commuters. They say more work is needed before it can be fully operational. Codian Barrett reports.
In St. Anne's Bay, the municipal corporation built a second transportation center from which all taxi operators must operate. However, the taxi operators say the facilities at the center are incomplete.
If they fix this place better than how it is, it will draw the people to the park. The people are not coming to the park. As what I said before, 85% of the people not using the park because the facilities is not up.
Facility no in here, no shelter, no bathroom. You understand me?
So they refuse?
Yeah. You understand? So is that enough of the people them don't want to come?
The distance of the transportation center from the town center is also posing a challenge for passengers and in turn affects taxi operators' revenue.
It's a bit slow now because the passengers, some of them can't manage to take the goods up this side. And if they do take it up, they have to pay 100 or more.
When we're down by the bottom, things was much better, but since we came here, I'm telling you about 85% of the people not coming up here.
Mayor of St. Anne's Bay Councillor Sidney Stewart has since acknowledged that more work is needed, but is appealing to operators to remain within the park.
I would ask the commuters respectfully to try and make the adjustment to using that. I know they will do their shopping in the lower section of St. Anne's Bay, but it is much more convenient for them to move and move freely, and it's much more convenient for the operators of the vehicles. Now, once we get all the facility in, that we can make them a lot more comfortable. I think they're certain with that, and I'm going to ask municipalities to do some more advertisement where that is concerned.
He says work is underway to complete facilities to make commuters more comfortable. Codian Barrett, TVJ News.
To other news, 3 more persons have died from COVID-19 in Jamaica. The total number of COVID-19 related deaths now stands at 770. Meanwhile, Jamaica also recorded 80 new COVID-19 cases on Tuesday. This pushes the total confirmed COVID-19 cases to 42,292. Meanwhile, 219 persons remain in hospital. 30 are critically ill. There are currently 23,348 active cases. Residents of West Berrydale in Portland are fearful for their lives because the only bridge that provides access in and out of the community is dangerous and, according to them, doomed to eventually cause a fatality. It's why they're pleading for urgent assistance from their Member of Parliament, Darrell Vaz. Sandy Williams has their story.
This is the bridge that residents of West Berrydale in Portland use on a daily basis to get in and out of their community. At first sight, the bridge looks safe to walk on, but underneath tells a different story. According to the residents, the bridge was last rehabilitated about 8 to 10 years ago. At the time, 2 light posts were repurposed to hold the bridge in place, while metal hand railings were installed. But as the years passed, the bridge started to deteriorate.
The iron and rock now, if you look underneath the bottom down underneath the bars, the light posts broke. One of them broke and one of them they on the way to broke.
And just the concrete and them little steel there where you see.
I hold it for now.
The bridge is now in a state that is posing a threat to residents. They claim their lives are at risk, as well as the lives of unsuspecting visitors.
I want to risk my life now, because jeopardy, my life is not jeopardy when I operate on that bridge. Because it break right in that way, you know. I just one light post, you know, so if I'm slipping on my dead, you know, because two people can't go at a time, you know. I just one at a time when you go on it, you have to lighten your weight, it will die.
And a lot of strangers use this for the day, a lot of visitors. And through the COVID, we still can't tell. People might just lose their life. People coming in and don't even know that this one break, and as soon as them enter, somebody much bigger with more weight across this might just lose their life.
West Berrydale is a farming community, and the residents say the bridge is affecting their livelihoods because it is not strong enough for loads to be carried across.
It's difficult. I need to fix right now too. Because when it's all fixed, you know, people have to die first before it fixed. You need to fix. Report it all the while and nobody will come response, you know. Understand? So we're in a difficult position right now.
They are appealing to their Member of Parliament, Darrell Vaz, for urgent assistance to fix the bridge.
We are asked Mr. Vaz to come in at this, because Mr. Vaz don't know nobody over here. No, Mr. Vaz take people like animal over here. And nobody over here no animal. So we are asked Mr. Vaz and the MP to come feel like when you can fly in a helicopter all round and round, come look for where we are, pass through and where we are come through.
Mr. Vaz has since responded to their plea.
I've asked the Parish Council and the National Works Agency to go and visit, to do an assessment, to see what temporary repairs can be done and whether or not a complete rehabilitation is needed. That area is a heavily traveled tourist area in normal times with a nice waterfall over there. So if necessary, we will seek assistance of the Tourism Enhancement Fund through TDPCO to work together with the National Works Agency or the Parish Council, whoever has responsibility for that bridge. So we'll get that assessment and respond back in short order.
Sandy Williams, TVJ News.
And here's Shamila Pullen with a preview of what's coming up in this evening's Health Report.
In the next edition of the Health Report, we'll look at autism.
Once the diagnosis is properly made, there are a lot of treatments that need to be had. One is because we mentioned speech, delays in speech, so speech therapy can be very helpful. Because there are problems with behavior, behavior therapy can be helpful as well. And many children with autism have problems using their fine motor skills. That's using the hand and fingers. So they write later, they button and unbutton and dress themselves later. So occupational therapy is helpful to assist them in improving their fine motor function. Also, just generally improving children's development through what we call early intervention. Early intervention is the specific activities that you do for a child who is delayed that helps to advance their development.
That's the Health Report this evening in Primetime News. And now for today's Healthy Living tip. Helping your child with autism thrive. Provide structure and safety. Be consistent. Stick to a schedule. Reward good behavior. Look for nonverbal cues. Make time for fun. And pay attention to your child's sensory sensitivities.
News in sports as the debate continues about the pros and cons of staging the ISA Boys and Girls Athletics Championships amidst the fight against COVID-19 in Jamaica. A couple of final year students are welcoming the move. Jordan Fort reports.
The National Parent Teachers Association of Jamaica is the most notable stakeholder body, which has publicly voiced opposition to the staging of the ISA Boys and Girls Championships this year due to the country's COVID-19 numbers. But coaches have been at pains to point out the benefits of the 5-day meet to Jamaican student athletes. And now a couple of athletes have weighed in. Sprinter Huasia Fife, who recently transferred to Heidel from Immaculate, will be competing for the final time at the championships.
I'm very happy that we're going to be given the opportunity to compete at the Boys and Girls Championships this year, seeing that last year's was cancelled. I feel like it's providing a great opportunity for all the athletes to showcase their talent so that we can move on to a further educational level or even those who plan to go professional.
Shante Morgan of Rosees is in a similar position.
Getting to compete this year will be overwhelming because I will get the chance to
because I have opportunities that coaches overseas are looking for me to compete, and I want to give them something.
Fife, who owns a personal best of 11.92 seconds for the 100 meters, wants to get that time down to attract more scholarship offers.
I feel like if the necessary precautions are taken, the championships can be held safely and successfully. I don't think there's any reason to cancel it. There's a lot of other things going on that are more dangerous or aiding to the rising cases in the COVID than a championship. Once you keep the social distance and the mask and the constant sanitizing, I feel like we can hold the championships safely.
And Morgan says she already has a couple of scholarship offers from colleges overseas, but needs to lay down a mark at champs to nail down a place. It's the reason, she says, the absence of spectators at this year's event doesn't bother her.
Yes, champs is normally a vibes thing and so forth, but right now I'm just basically focusing on my scholarship and leaving a mark.
The rescheduled ISA Boys and Girls Championships is set for May 11 to 15 at the National Stadium with strict COVID-19 measures in place. Jordan Fort, TVJ Sports.
And that's the Midday News. I'm Giovanni Dennis. Join us at 7 for Primetime News. On behalf of the news, sports and production teams, have a good afternoon.